They say the beginning of the end is never obvious until you're staring at it in a wine glass reflection, watching your wife laugh at someone else's joke while pretending you're not in the room. It was a Thursday, not a special one. Just a regular, mid-paycheck Thursday where the fridge was humming louder than the conversation and her phone was face down on the table. A new habit she'd picked up along with Pilates, microblading, and the self-care phase that didn't include me. We were 3 minutes into dinner when she said it. "Don't wait up tonight." She said it so casually, like she was canceling a dentist appointment. Not a blink, not a stutter, just that confident tone women use when they've already decided you don't matter. I paused, fork hovering halfway to my mouth. "Going somewhere?" She didn't look up from her phone. "Networking thing. Late one." Ah yes, the magical networking events that smelled suspiciously like cheap hotel bars and men named Travis who didn't wear wedding rings. I didn't say anything. Didn't push. That was her favorite move lately. Make me ask for details I shouldn't have to, and then accuse me of being paranoid when I did. Instead, I nodded slowly. "Got it." And that was it. No fight. No drama. I cleared the table, rinsed her plate, and stacked it where it belonged. Same place I'd been putting myself for years. Quietly. Invisibly. Right next to the dishwasher. But I wasn't clueless. I had already noticed the new perfume. Floral with just enough bite to say, "I'm desirable," even if my husband stopped noticing. I noticed the gym bag that stayed in her trunk overnight. The sudden interest in podcasts about embracing female freedom from women who live in wine-soaked bubbles of divorce and affirmation. She was slipping, not just out of love, but out of her role, out of the character she'd performed so convincingly for the first 10 years. But here's the thing, I saw it before she did. She thought she was being clever, sneaky, like I was some oblivious golden retriever waiting by the door for her to come back home and pat me on the head. No, I was the hawk. And this hawk had already started collecting feathers. The first one came from our shared cloud account. See, she wasn't tech-savvy. She thought backing up her photos to the cloud was just for memories. But all it took was a few clicks and a few evenings when she was at yoga for me to find the first clue. A selfie, bad lighting, cheap hotel wallpaper in the background. A man's shoulder in the frame. Just enough of a jawline to recognize a face I never liked. Brent, her business coach. The guy with all the vowels in his last name and none of the humility in his voice. She had told me he was just helping her scale her personal brand. Well, apparently, scaling included side-eye glances, filtered selfies, and a suspicious number of blurred-out receipts. But again, I didn't confront her. Because confrontation is for the unprepared. I was preparing. I made copies, dated files, cross-referenced calendars, compiled a folder on my personal drive called Observation Deck, password protected, offline, and synced to a drive she didn't know existed. Every fake business dinner, every Instagram story with suspicious timestamps, every message that started with "delete this later." I didn't just have suspicions. I had evidence. Back at the table, she finally looked up. "You're quiet tonight." I smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly, just enough to make her blink. "Just tired," I said. "Long day of pretending everything's fine." She didn't laugh, didn't reply, just stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. Good. Let her wonder. Because I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to break a single thing in this house except her illusion of control. The thing about cheaters is, they're not smart. They think they're smart, which makes them predictable. A dangerous combination when the man they're deceiving has already stopped playing defense. Let's talk about the wine bar. There's a little place downtown called Alaris. She mentioned it a few times. First, it was the girls love the vibe. Then it became Brent says their Pinot's amazing. Subtle shift, right? The girls disappeared, and suddenly Brent was suggesting wine. Now, I'm a whiskey man. I couldn't tell you a Pinot from a punch bowl, but I knew Alaris, and I knew the manager, Carlos. We'd fixed his HVAC system 6 years ago when I was still doing side jobs for cash. He owed me, so I made a call. "Carlos, I need a favor. Keep an eye out. Table for two, blonde, sharp tongue, thinks she invented branding. She's got a thing for a guy who talks too much and leaves a big tip. On her, not the check." Carlos laughed. "Man, that's too specific not to be real. I got you." That Friday, she kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong. "Girls' night," she said. "We might get a little wild." I smiled. "Hey, tell Brent I said hi." She froze for half a second. That tiny glitch in her matrix. Then kept walking. Boom. That night, I didn't wait up. I just waited. And sure enough, 11:24 p.m., Carlos sent me a photo. 2 wine glasses. 2 seats at the bar. Brent's smug face in profile. Hers leaned in close, like she was about to confess something other than taxes. She hadn't seen Carlos. He snapped it smooth as silk. Sent a second message. They left together. His car. Same direction. I didn't ask where. I didn't need to. I already knew what came next, and more importantly, I knew what to do with it. Saturday morning, she came back wearing that same lazy, I didn't do anything wrong stretch. We just stayed at Rachel's, she yawned, dropping her purse like it was too heavy with lies. Girl talk and too much wine. You would have hated it. I poured her coffee. No reaction. No comment. Because see, when you want to catch a snake, you don't scream when you see it. You watch it. You study how it moves. Then you build a box it can't slither out of. While she was in the shower, I copied the Alara photo to a flash drive. Labeled it Pinot Noir and Poor Decisions. Put it right next to the chat logs I'd pulled from our cloud sync. She never realized the iPad in the guest room was still connected to her iMessages. Oh, those messages. Brent really thought he was Don Juan with a Squarespace login. If he knew what you looked like with that dress off, we could be powerful together. He doesn't deserve a woman like you. Buddy, I built a marriage while you were still learning what a W-2 was. Later that day, she asked if I wanted to go to dinner next weekend. Just the 2 of us. Maybe we need it. Oh, we'd be going to dinner. Just not the one she thought. Because I'd already reserved a table, for 3. Brent was going to be there too. And I was going to let her walk into the reveal of her own performance. No shouting. No tears. Just calm, cruel clarity. The reservation was set for 7:30 at Stellan's, a place just upscale enough for betrayal to feel classy. She thought it was a date. I told her I wanted to reconnect. She even wore the green dress, the one I bought her 3 anniversaries ago, back when her eyes still looked for mine across the room. This feels nice, she said, sliding into the booth. Just us again. Not quite. I kept a straight face. My hand rested on the table, fingers calm. Across from me, she beamed, sipping her wine with a smugness you'd mistake for innocence if you hadn't seen the Alara photos. So, is this a peace treaty? She asked, crossing her legs. You ready to stop sulking? I nodded slowly. Sure. I thought we could have a grown-up conversation. That was the cue. Right on schedule, Brent walked in. He didn't see me at first. Just her. Babe? He said, confused but smiling. The smile froze the moment he saw me. Ashley's wine glass trembled as she set it down. What is this? A reunion, I said. You know, since we've all spent so much time talking. She blinked, mouth opening, then closing, like a fish dumped out of its bowl. Brent shifted awkwardly, caught between fight, flight, and pretending he came in by accident. I thought you were alone, he muttered. Oh, you did. I said. That's cute. I thought honesty was the new branding trend. Ashley stood up suddenly. I can't believe you did this. Really? After everything you've done, you can't believe I did this? Ashley, I gave you room to come clean. I gave you grace. You gave me pity. And Brent here? Gave you hotel points and lousy poetry in your messages. Brent frowned. What are you talking about? I slid the flash drive across the table. That's for you. A highlight reel. Texts. Photos. Her calling me a furniture piece with feelings. Ashley's face turned red. You had no right to go through my stuff. You're right, I said, standing up slowly. But cheaters don't get to lecture about privacy. That's like a pickpocket getting mad someone checked their wallet. She glared. So what? This is revenge. You just wanted to humiliate me. Oh no, I said, calmly pushing my chair in. This isn't the revenge. This is the warning. Brent looked between us, clearly starting to realize this evening wasn't romantic. It was a chess game he wasn't invited to play. You two deserve each other, I said. Just know, I've already moved all the pieces. I turned, not waiting for her reply. But as I walked out, I heard her say something under her breath. You always did love your little games. And I smiled, because she had no idea just how deep the game went. Let me start with a confession. I didn't walk out of that restaurant angry. I walked out satisfied. Because the mistake most people make is assuming betrayal ends when you find out. It doesn't. That's just the welcome mat. The real work begins when you take everything your betrayer values and rearrange it while they're still gloating. Ashley thought I was reacting. She had no idea I was orchestrating. 3 days after the dinner, I met with my estate attorney. His office still smelled like leather and old ambition. The kind of place where legacies get built with contracts and silence. "You're sure you want to move this fast?" he asked, scanning the packet I'd handed him. "I've been sure for 6 months," I said. I was just waiting for her to step off the cliff. Because see, I'd already updated my will. Quietly, surgically. Ashley was still under the impression she was the sole beneficiary of my estate. Which made sense. She'd always treated our marriage like a stock option, ride the wave, cash out when the valuation drops. But now, she was written out of everything. My trust, the house, my retirement funds, the company shares. All redirected. Some to my sister, some to the charity my dad started before he passed. The rest into a foundation I named after my grandmother, the one woman in my life who never lied to me. Ashley was replaced with a footnote. Surviving spouse excluded by conscious intent. And yes, I made sure she'd see those words eventually. That same day, I froze the joint accounts. Not drained, just locked. You want a lesson in humility? Try buying organic wine and collagen powder with a debit card that suddenly says insufficient funds. And oh, did she try? My phone buzzed around 11:08 a.m. Ashley. I let it ring. Twice. 3 times. Then I picked up, just long enough to hear her hiss through her teeth. "Why the hell can't I access the checking account?" "Which one?" I asked, flat as steel. "Don't play dumb." "Ours." Yeah, about that." I paused. I thought it was time we stopped pretending. She went silent. Then the fake laugh came. "You're being ridiculous. What are you trying to prove?" "Nothing," I said. "Just adjusting my investments." "I am your wife," she snapped. "Legally, yes," I said. "Strategically? Not for long." She hung up. But I wasn't done. See, there was one last thing she didn't know I'd already changed. The house. I'd bought it before the marriage, in my name only. But 2 years ago, I refinanced it for renovations. She convinced me to add her name, just to simplify things. Big mistake? No. Big opportunity. Because what she didn't realize was that I had paid off that refi 6 months ago, and I'd already filed a quiet claim deed to remove her name from the title. Legally, cleanly, under full compliance. I had the paperwork. I had the recordings. I had the receipts. That weekend, she came home from one of her yoga sessions, parked outside Brent's loft for 2 hours, walked through the front door, and found a letter sitting on the kitchen counter. Cream paper, gold trim, our initials embossed in the corner, leftover from our wedding thank you notes. Inside, a single page. Not a legal notice. Not a threat. Just a checklist. To-do list. Cancel Brent's wine subscription. He prefers cheap Merlot. Tragic. Forward mail to his studio apartment above the nail salon. Ask him to explain why he Venmo'd 3 different women last month. Reflect on why I never yelled. Remember that I never needed to. She found me in the garage, polishing the Mustang she never liked. Said it was too loud. "What is this?" she demanded, waving the letter like it was a warrant. "Clarity," I said, not looking up. "You think this is funny?" "Not at all," I said. "But I'm starting to remember what peace feels like. That is kind of funny." She crossed her arms, trying to summon whatever remnants of dominance she had left. Her voice dropped. "This is my house, too." I finally looked at her. "Actually, it's not." And I handed her a copy of the property record, along with the date-stamped deed change. She read it once, twice, then looked up, eyes glassy. "You did this before?" "Months ago." "So you were planning to screw me this whole time?" I wiped my hands with the same towel I used to clean her engine oil stains when she forgot to maintain her car. "No, Ashley. I was planning to leave with dignity. You gave me a better idea." That night, she stayed at Brent's. How do I know? Because the Ring camera caught her tossing clothes into the back of her trunk at 11:42 p.m., then speeding off like a teenager who got caught sneaking out. And I sat in the living room, sipping tea, watching the footage like a film I'd already seen. Because the best part of revenge? It's not the noise. It's the silence afterward. The kind that settles over a house when the poison finally leaves. You ever watch someone spin their web so confidently, so smugly, they forget who's holding the scissors? That was Ashley. The woman lived for appearances. Brunches, brand building, curated Instagram stories with captions like "unbothered sparkles" and "manifesting peace dove." Meanwhile, she was elbow deep in secrets and Chardonnay. But secrets rot in daylight. and I was done being quiet. It started small. I wasn't interested in airing dirty laundry. I was interested in laying the rope and letting her hang herself with it. First move, I removed her access to the business. She had a little side hustle, branding consultancy, built the logo on Canva, charged people 4 digits to elevate their visual identity, which really meant reposting stock quotes with dramatic fonts. The LLC was under my name. I funded it, built her website, filed the paperwork. She used to joke that I was her silent investor. So I silenced myself by revoking the site, freezing the business account, and redirecting the domain. She didn't notice right away, but her clients did. One of them emailed, "Hey, your website is down. Also, did you know there's a page here now called Reality Check?" That page? A clean, factual write-up of her activities. No slander, no speculation, just screenshots of messages, blurred names, except hers, photo timestamps, and billing discrepancies between her coaching invoices and hotel receipts. Public record. No commentary, just data. Because nothing ruins a narcissist like undeniable facts. The fallout came quick. By the end of the week, 3 clients had dropped her. A fourth messaged me directly. I had no idea. "Thank you for the heads up." Ashley stormed into the house 2 days later, red-faced and full of fury. She hadn't been back since the Mustang conversation, but she let herself in with the spare key under the rock she thought I forgot about. "What the hell is that website?" I looked up from my desk. Calm. Still. Like a man who's already read the end of the book. "You mean the one with receipts?" "You're ruining my reputation." "No," I said. "You did that. I just made sure no one else had to foot the bill." She grabbed the flash drive sitting on the counter, the same one from our dinner with Brent. "You seriously went through my messages? You stalked me." "Nope," I said. "I backed up a shared device that you logged into voluntarily. Not my fault you never learned how Cloud Sync works." She opened her mouth to argue, then paused. She finally realized she couldn't win this argument. "Not here. Not now. Not anymore." So she pivoted. "You're heartless," she said. "I lost everything because of you." I leaned back in the chair. "No, Ashley. You lost everything because you gambled everything. And I just made sure the house didn't cover your tab." The next day, her mother called me. Yes, her mother. That's how far the ripples went. "Logan," she said, voice trembling. "Please, whatever's going on between you two, can't we keep it private?" This was the same woman who once told me I wasn't ambitious enough for her daughter, who suggested Ashley had settled when she married me. Now she was begging me to stop the bleeding. "You raised a woman who treats marriage like an expired lease," I said. This is me handing her the eviction notice. She hung up. No goodbye, just shame. I didn't post anything to social media, didn't gloat, didn't drop a single sarcastic caption, but I did change my profile picture, just me, standing in front of the house, smiling next to the Mustang. The house I now owned outright. She saw it. I know she did, because a few hours later, I got a notification from an anonymous account. One like, no comment, just a silent tap from a woman realizing the house she used to brag about was now out of reach. Then came Brent's unraveling. Turns out, Brent had his own secrets. See, cheaters attract cheaters. It's like flies to honey, if the honey spiked with delusion and protein powder. One of his other clients, a yoga instructor named Talia, found the website. She contacted me. We compared notes. Brent had been selling her the same fantasy. Same promises. Same dates, actually. Same hotel. So I asked if she wanted a folder. She said yes. I emailed it the next morning. That same afternoon, Brent's personal branding page went dark. His podcast, Conscious Masculinity and Business Alignment, vanished. Poof. Ashley tried calling me that night. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was softer this time. Fragile. "Logan, I know I messed up, but you don't have to keep doing this. You won. Okay, you won." I played it twice. Not because I cared, because I wanted to remember the sound of defeat from someone who never thought I'd fight back. You ever hear someone say revenge is a dish best served cold? They're wrong. Revenge isn't a dish. It's a table you set, quietly, carefully, while your enemy sharpens their knife, thinking you'll still be the meat. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's precision. And now, her friends were gone. Her business was gone. Her fallback man was exposed. And the next part? Well, let's just say it's the dessert course. You ever see someone trip over a string they didn't know they tied themselves to? That was Ashley the day she found out about the trust. Not the one she knew about, the rainy day account we funded back when we were still playing house. No, this was something older, deeper, etched into paperwork she never cared enough to read, because back then, she thought being my wife meant her name automatically came with perks. That's the thing about assuming someone loves you blindly. You stop checking the dotted lines. Let's rewind. 12 years ago, I inherited part of my grandfather's estate. He was old school, the kind of man who smoked cigars but hated bragging. He built his wealth quietly: grain silos, rental properties, small-town stocks that went big when nobody was looking. When he passed, I got a phone call and a letter. Both were brief. "You get the land, the dividend shares, and the inheritance trust," the lawyer said. "But there's a clause." I read it 3 times that night. Had to call him back just to make sure I understood. Clause was simple. The trust shall not be disbursed to or shared with any spouse who initiates or contributes to a marital breach, as determined by a panel of trustees. At the time, it felt old-fashioned, like something pulled out of a 1920s drama. I signed it anyway. Didn't think I'd ever need it. 12 years later, it was my most valuable asset. Ashley had no idea about the clause. Why would she? I'd never used the trust money. It just sat there, growing, waiting, like a secret I kept in the attic with the Christmas decorations and my grandfather's watch. She assumed it was part of the marital pool. Assumed wrong. She found out the day her lawyer called mine. I'd filed for divorce. Quietly. Clean. No court spectacle. But she expected a payout. Expected to walk with half the assets. Especially the inheritance. She thought it was hers by default, because we're married. Her attorney requested a meeting to go over settlement details. I agreed. We met at the firm. Neutral ground. She walked in wearing that confident victim look: tight black dress, oversized sunglasses, and a folder that screamed, "I read 3 legal blogs, and now I'm ready." She didn't speak to me directly, just smiled faintly and nodded at her lawyer. "We're prepared to discuss equitable division," he said. "Ashley's entitled to half of all assets accrued during the marriage, including the ancestral trust." My lawyer barely looked up from his notepad. "Actually, no, she isn't." "Excuse me." He slid a single sheet across the table. Legal copy. Highlighted clause. Trustee signatures. The trust is governed by a clause excluding any spouse who violates the integrity of the marriage. We've already submitted evidence to the board. Ashley's smile cracked for the first time. "What board?" "The trust board," my lawyer replied. 3 of my grandfather's oldest friends. They reviewed the materials, including the text logs, the travel receipts, and the recording from Alaris. Her lawyer glanced at her, blinking. "You were recorded?" She didn't respond. She didn't need to. My lawyer kept going. "As a result, the board has ruled Ashley is ineligible to claim any portion of the inheritance. It will remain in Logan's name. Protected. Separate. Final. Silence. That kind of silence you only hear in war movies, right before the last shell hits." Her lawyer leaned forward. "This will be contested." My attorney shrugged. "You're welcome to try, but it's airtight. Multiple precedents. And if you do challenge it, we're prepared to publicize the hearing. Court transcripts are public record." Ashley's eyes flicked to mine. First time they'd met me head-on in weeks. "You set me up." I raised an eyebrow. "I gave you rope. You made a necklace." After the meeting, I waited in the parking lot. Not for drama. For closure. She came out 20 minutes later, moving slower than she had on the way in. Like someone who finally realized the game wasn't chess. It was Jenga, and I'd already pulled the key block. "You were planning this the whole time," she said. "No," I replied. "I planned for the possibility that you'd become someone I couldn't trust." "You think this makes you smart?" Her voice cracked, too proud to cry, too shocked to scream. "No," I said calmly. "It makes me free." She didn't say anything, just stood there in her designer heels, shifting like a statue cracking at the base. Then she laughed. Not a funny laugh. A tired one. "You know, I used to think you were boring. Predictable. A safe bet." I smiled. "You were right. I was a safe bet. You just didn't realize I was also the house." Then I got in my truck and left her standing there. Just like she left our marriage. Gradually, selfishly, and with zero awareness of what was waiting when the curtain fell. Later that night, my phone buzzed. Private number. Voicemail. "Logan, I don't know what to say. You've made your point. But if this is about hurting me, congrats. You won." I just hope you don't wake up one day alone and realize you burned down something that could have been fixed. I deleted it, not out of anger, out of peace, because nothing she said was true. I didn't burn the house down. I just finally put out a fire that had been raging behind closed doors for years. Spoiler alert, I didn't get a new woman. Not a fling. Not a revenge body transformation. Not some 26-year-old with a motivational tattoo and a TikTok habit. I got something better. I got myself back. Turns out, being cheated on doesn't make you weak. Staying with someone who thinks loyalty is optional, that's the real weakness. Once she was out of the picture, so was the fog. I woke up at 6 a.m. one morning, brewed my coffee, sat on the porch, and realized the silence didn't hurt anymore. It healed. I started fixing up the house. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. Ripped out the wine rack she insisted on, turned the guest room into a workshop, replaced the bathroom mirror where she used to rehearse fake smiles for Instagram. I went to dinner with friends. I even laughed again, really laughed, the kind that comes from the gut, not the throat. People asked me if I was dating. I said no. I'm dating peace. And she's not high maintenance. You know that little world she built online? Gone. One of her ex-clients, one of the ones who saw the reality check site, posted a thread on social media, called Ashley a fraud, linked the receipts, asked publicly why a branding coach was getting caught up in personal drama and lies. That thread went viral. Quietly viral. The worst kind. Her follower count dropped. Her partnerships disappeared. That podcast she was starting? Pulled by the sponsor before episode 2. Brent. Turns out his finances weren't just thin, they were borrowed. Couple women he'd sweet-talked into investing in his wellness app came forward. Allegations. Refund demands. Karma on fast forward. Ashley went private on every platform, then deleted most of them. Not because she was embarrassed, narcissists don't do shame, but because when the applause dies, they'd rather vanish than perform to silence. I got invited to a mutual friend's wedding. I wasn't going to go. Too many shared faces, too many questions. But then I heard she'd be there. So I rented a tailored suit. Showed up clean-shaven, unbothered, and calm. She walked in 30 minutes late. Alone. Hair tied too tight, smile pulled too wide. She spotted me by the bar. Hesitated. Walked over. You look different, she said. You look the same, I replied. Except lighter. Less self-righteous. She blinked. I thought about what you said. About rope and necklaces. Oh yeah. I didn't get it then. I do now. I nodded. Sipped my drink. I used to think I could get away with everything, she added. You did. For a while. She looked down at her glass. Do you hate me? No, I said. You don't. That would require me to still care. She didn't reply. Just stood there, waiting for me to crack. I didn't. Enjoy the night, I said, brushing past her. And just like that, she was behind me. For good point 2 weeks later, she reached out again. A long message. No anger. No insults. Just a request. Can we meet? Not as a couple. Just as two people who used to know each other. I didn't reply. Because that's the problem with people like her. They never expect you to move on. They expect you to evolve just enough to still orbit their world. Just enough to make them feel like they could still come back if they said the right thing. But I don't orbit anymore. I rebuilt gravity from scratch. So here's the unexpected ending you asked for. There was no grand revenge. There was no final slap. No court meltdown. No viral video. No scandalous gotcha twist. Just a man who got even by getting out. Smarter, cleaner, freer. And when people ask what happened to Ashley, I say, nothing happened to her. She just finally ran out of audience. Then I go back to my porch, my coffee, my quiet, and the new life she'll never get to see.